Let's talk about how to get an individualized education plan for your child. First up, some definitions. An individual education plan is often abbreviated as IEP. An IEP is a legal document for students that have a disability to be able to have their needs met in a public school in the United States. All of this is governed by a federal law called IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. But an IEP is more than just a piece of paper. It is really a plan, a chance to collaborate with the team to come up with the best approach to meet the needs of your child. An IEP can be a great fit for a student with dyslexia, especially if their dyslexia has resulted in them being quite behind with their reading, writing, and spelling. The process to getting an IEP is governed by law and it is set in the same in every state. So, if a parent makes a formal request for an IEP, the school has 15 days to accept that request to test or deny it. And if they deny it, they need to do so in writing. One thing I find is that sometimes parents are asking for an IEP in kind of an informal way. Maybe they're texting the teacher and saying, "Hey, what do you think about an IEP for my kid?" Um, and the classroom teacher might say something like, "Well, I don't think they need that yet," or "Let's wait." And the parent feels like they've been denied an IEP or the school told them no, where the teacher might feel like that wasn't really a formal request. So, what I recommend doing is typing up a letter, and then you can email this letter and mail the letter to the school administration. So you can make sure that they realize that this is a formal request. And the language I would use in the letter is just that. I would say, I am formally requesting an individualized education plan, parentheses IEP, for my child. And then explain the reasons why. If you've had your child privately tested, you could say that you had them evaluated outside of school and the child had been identified as having fill in the blank, dyslexia, ADHD, whatever it might be. Um, you don't have to have had outside testing, but that is one thing I'd point out if you have had that done somewhere like Read Write. You also want to just describe everything that you've been seeing with them, even just from your perspective as a parent. For example, we study spelling words 3 hours a week, but my child still regularly makes 50s on their spelling test. You might say something like, "We've had our child in tutoring after school for 2 years, but still on their STAR test, they're testing in the urgent intervention range." Just paint the picture for the school of what you're seeing as the parent and why you're so concerned. At the end of your letter, say, "I look forward to hearing your response in 15 days." This really signals to the school that you know the law and that they do have to either accept or deny your request to test. They are required to test if there is reasonable evidence that the child could have a learning disability. So definitely if they've been tested somewhere like Read Write and found to have the characteristics of dyslexia, that's reasonable evidence. But there are lots of other things that can be reasonable evidence as well, such as, a history of needing intervention at school, a history of having tutoring, a history of low grades. Um, all of these things are evidence of a learning disability as well. And at that point, I recommend mailing the letter, dropping off in person, and emailing it, just so you can make sure they received it and that you're signaling to them that this is a very formal request. Once the school accepts your request to test, they have 60 days to complete their evaluation. After the evaluation is completed, then they have 30 days to create the IEP. So it is a lengthy process. If this is something that you're considering, I would not wait until you're desperate because it can take almost a full semester to get an IEP in place. Thanks for watching. If you have questions about IEPs, leave them in the comments. I'd love to do a future video to answer your question.